The one thing that the terrorists cannot do, not one of them, not 10 of them, not 10,000 of them, they cannot change who we are. On September 11th, 2001, American history was changed forever by a terrorist group by the name of Al-Qaeda, in efforts to destabilize the government and the hearts of the American people. There were intense debates about counterterrorism, human rights, the war on terror, and privacy, such as the one over the government surveillance of US citizens.
So let's understand the fight within the war on terror.
The events that September 11 attacks are most infamous for are the attacks on the World Trade Center, also known as the Twin Towers. These were skyscraper buildings located in Manhattan, New York. These attacks were the most tragic of the three and cost a tremendous amount of innocent lives. Another attack conducted by Al-Qaeda was on the Pentagon. Firefighters and policemen reported to the buildings immediately. They rushed into the burning buildings and saved countless lives. There was another attempted attack, but was sabotaged and crashed in a field near Pennsylvania.
The leading debate after this event was whether the U.S. should initiate war against Iraq. The war was provoked by 9/11 attacks, but they were led to by prior conflicts between the United States and Iraq. President George W. Bush was in office during these troubled times, and he saw it fit to start a war immediately after the attacks, because they had launched an attack and because he believes they had held chemical and biological weapons of mass destruction, despite the many inspection teams sent to Iraq reporting they were none.
Debate and diplomacy. Two things that make up human life. It's how we get things done, it's how we help people, and fight for what we believe in. Debate. The civil disagreement between two parties involving words and ideals. Diplomacy. The act of dealing with people in a sensible and effective way. Both of these go hand in hand with each other, and to come to a resolution to a certain problem. Now that we understand the facts of this situation, how were debate and diplomacy applied to the war on terror and 9/11?
The two sides of the debate are simple. The people of America either supported Bush in his crucial decision or thought he was wrong. Though the president cast the final decision, the people and congressmen made a substantial impact on the decision. The debate was to decide whether Americans should start a war with Iraq after the attacks on the buildings.
In 2001 to 2002, there were many people that helped broadcast to go to war after President Bush presented the idea. The most important figure, President Bush, believes that they should declare war on Iraq. On September 11, 2001, just 2 hours after the catastrophic events, Bush says, "On September the 11th, enemies of freedom committed an act of war against our country." Bush mentioned the war frequently in the speech, and said that our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated. Another historical figure that supported this war was the vice president at the time, Dick Cheney. Cheney said that sending the US military to Iraq was the right thing to do. After the events of 9/11, the decision to act, he said, was based off of the intelligence, which suggested that the former Iraqi president Saddam Hussein was supporting terrorists and hoarding weapons of mass destruction. Though the majority of people favored and supported war, there were also people that thought declaring war was a bad idea. All ranges of people chose to oppose the war, from citizens of the United States to people all over the globe. Mr. Kofi Annan, the former United States Secretary General, opposed the war because he realized war was illegal because of UN Charter violations. He said that if the United States took military action without Security Council approval, it would not be in conformity with the Charter. Also, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, who is still in office today, also opposed the war. She opposed the war because she believed war was not absolutely necessary. She states this in her recorded opinion. "Because I do not believe we have exhausted all diplomatic remedies, I cannot support the administration's resolution regarding the force used in Iraq." She believes that there are other solutions or diplomacy options that could be used before force.
The main reason people would support war is that the organization, known as Al-Qaeda, directly attacked the United States and damaged our country as well as our people. The events of 9/11 triggered Americans to decide that warfare was necessary. Another suspicion the U.S. had of Iraq is that Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq, owned an arsenal of chemical and biological weapons of mass destruction. We believe that after these events, America is vulnerable to further unexpected attacks, and our president said this: "America is vulnerable. We need to disarm Iraq of weapons of mass destruction to end Saddam Hussein's support for terrorism and to free the Iraqi people."
In 2003, there could have been several reasons that someone would want to oppose war. First, the Congress realized that war with Iraq was technically illegal because the UN did not authorize this action. They didn't authorize it because this war did not have firm proof that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. Also, after the deaths of victims that suffered in the 9/11 attacks and many others in the war, people realized that countless lives could be lost, and it would not be beneficial to our country in the long run. In March 2003, President Bush and the UK Prime Minister, Tony Blair, launched a coalition team to invade Iraq. This invasion took 2 months, and the purpose of the attack was to find and destroy the weapons of mass destruction, and also to end this dictatorial rule of Saddam Hussein. Though they did not find any weapons of nuclear destruction, the invasion, though illegal, was considered a success. Bush's reasoning for his actions was that he felt Iraq had too much of a threat to our country and the civilized world, and still had the same beliefs about their weaponry. The government does not doubt that Al-Qaeda is behind this, and they could be potentially holding weapons of mass destruction. Nevertheless, they still believe the invasion was a mistake. As a result of our vigorous debate, a war broke out in 2003 between the United States and Iraq. This global war was known as the 2003 Iraq War, or the Second Gulf War.
My name is Bob Fries. I was commissioned into the United States Air Force in 1997. I did about 10 years in the Air Force. So obviously during that time, there was 9/11, global war on terror, Afghanistan, Iraq. Was a captain in the Air Force for the majority of that time. I was diplomatic advisor for the Afghan National Army. 9/11, I was actually stationed at the Pentagon during that time.
What was your opinion on the whole situation?
Terrorist cells were out there. They attacked in the past with 9/11. So I think it was a measured response. Another interesting question, was it all worth it? Because you look at Afghanistan now and the people that we're trying to get out are right back in there. Working diplomatically with terrorists, that's just something you can't do. It was my duty to do my job. Politicians are hired to make those decisions. We, as the military, were the instruments of those decisions. As a country, we're kind of at each other back and forth a little bit internally. I think we've gotten away from us versus them. Now it's kind of all us. 9/11 was a time to bring the whole country together.
We thank you for your service and your time.
Yep.
And we're...
No problem.
The world can truly never forget the happenings of the 9/11 attacks, where we lost the lives of nearly 3,000 civilians and 6,000 more injured. The event caused a devastating impact on our economy and our spirits. This event changed the course of the world forever, and we continue to feel the same pain that we felt as a country that day back in September. The attacks were not just an attempt to strike fear in the hearts of Americans. They were a start of a domino effect that still impacts our world to this date. The debates on how to respond to the terrorists were not confined to simply the war. They spiraled out into the Patriot Act and Guantanamo Bay, both topics of high debate. Technology and the use of the internet was rampant and taking off during the early 2000s. The United States government used the Patriot Act, a law passed to use the powers of the internet for government to monitor activity to find any possible suspects. Though this should have made it easier for the government to find terrorists, it conflicted with our morals and constitution as Americans. People and senators argued that this violated the Fourth Amendment, the protection of citizens' property from the government and police, to not be searched unless with a warranty. Though the Patriot Act has been replaced by the Freedom Act, it divided America further through the debate on how people were monitored. Along with this act, security at airports and other public areas increased tremendously to protect people, yet this too had drawbacks and created racial tensions and biases against people from Muslim communities and Middle Eastern descent. Guantanamo Bay is a U.S. detention camp in Cuba that was used to lock prisoners of the war on terror. It was heavily used to send people accused and suspected of terrorist affiliation, though there were innocent civilians locked away from their families, forever sent there too. People internationally argued that even as terrorists, they were being treated immorally. They believed that this was not a diplomatic solution to deal with the terrorists, and no matter what they had done or were planning to do, they were still people. Their stance was that you cannot fight a wrong with another wrong. The opposing side to this argument believed that in order to capture every possible terrorist and locate the basis of their operation, Guantanamo Bay and its methods were vital. The 20-year war on terror took about 900,000 lives and costed around $8 trillion. We can never understand the true gravitas of this situation and how difficult it is to fight something like never before. The diplomatic efforts of our country and others aided us as a country to heal from our scars and come back stronger. Though the debates may look like they further divided our country, they show the beauty and resilience of our people. It shows that people fight for what they believe in, that they fight for something bigger than themselves, no matter what side they are on. We salute every hero that fought for us, whether it be a first responder, a soldier, leaders of a country, or just normal people who aided and supported what they believed in. We salute you and thank you for your service.
With this history brought to our present, we ask ourselves this question: can tough times of despair and turmoil, with the help of debate and diplomacy, be the thing that unites our country as many Americans but one people?